I want to ask you more broadly, kind of what your sales pitch looks like and to whom you are making it when you're trying to attract companies to Toronto.
Well, we have to start at the beginning with the basics, because I think a lot of people don't know that the Toronto region has, 6.5 million people. It's, the city of Toronto is the fourth biggest city in North America. We have one of the deepest talent pools when it comes to tech talent, and it's a talent that is available at a much lower price, a lower cost to businesses that are going to set up either new businesses in Toronto or even have a second office there. We are a lower cost generally when it comes to real estate and other kinds of things. We're very livable. So we're having to sort of make the case from the ground up, just because a lot of people don't know about Toronto. For example, it is generally conceded to be one of the, if not the global capital for artificial intelligence, for AI and machine learning. So we're having to sort of tell our story, but that's fine. And we're here aiming it at VCs, because we need continued investment to fuel our tech ecosystem, which has grown hugely in the last 5 years particularly. We are targeting it at people who might be looking to establish another office outside of the United States, or if they have one on the West Coast where there's a talent shortage,
who
they can
might
come
you
to the
be
East
talking
Coast.
about in particular?
Well, we put in a bid for Amazon, but
right.
We're talking, look, I'm quite happy to be pursuing jobs on behalf of the region with my fellow mayors, 100 jobs at a time, and not worrying. I mean, we have a bid in on the 50,000 jobs. That will end up where it does, but we're really just taking the jobs from anybody that would like to come and take advantage of the huge talent pool and the lower costs.
Mayor Tory, can we just push you a little bit further on the Amazon bid? Can you give us any exclusives, any revelations on this bid, how it's going?
I wish I had exclusives to give you, because I'd do that here on Bloomberg if I had any. But we put our bid in. They acknowledged receipt of it. And now there have been all kinds of stories swirling around with people who supposedly know who the insider or the people with the inside track are. All I would say is this. We put a bid forward that talked about a powerhouse region in North America that is close to hundreds of millions of people where it is, even though it happens to be located in Canada. It has a deep talent pool. It has huge cost advantages. And what we did was we didn't enclose a check in with the bid for an incentive. We said we're going to invest, as we're able to do through a public university system, in training even more STEM graduates to come out so that we can be sure there's a supply of talent going forward in the region. And we talked about things like our healthcare system, where if Amazon or any other corporation came to the Toronto region, they don't have to pay a separate check or write a separate check for healthcare. It's included in the lower corporate taxes they pay in the region than they would pay, say, here in the United States.
And what about Lyft's plans to expand in Toronto? I mean, will you welcome Lyft with open arms?
We welcome them in the sense that it provides greater choice for people who use, ground transportation of different kinds. We have an excellent taxi industry. It serves its purpose, and we have sort of deregulated that to some extent and lowered some of their rates in order to allow them to compete. We have, I think, successfully regulated Uber in a way that has been more peaceful than in many other places in the world. And now Lyft is going to come in and provide, I suspect, competition for Uber more so than for taxis. And I think that's good for the consumer. And we will fit them under our existing regulatory regime that we put in place to deal with Uber.
When you talk about the attractiveness of Toronto or Canada more broadly, and low cost being part of the selling point, in Ontario and in Toronto, some costs are set to go up in the next year or two. When we're talking about the cost of electricity, we're talking about minimum wages as well. So how is that offsetting some of the lower costs to do business there?
Well, I mean, on the one hand, you have minimum wage going up, as we just heard is happening with Target employees as well here in the United States. But on the other hand, you had an announcement by the government at the same time that the small business tax rate is going down, so that our tax rate, corporate tax rate, not for small businesses, but generally is 26%, which I think is 12 points below the U.S. or some such, quite a big margin. So, yes, I mean, there are costs that are rising, but we also are a lower cost jurisdiction. There's a 30% in the region. There's a 30% differential lower in favor of the Toronto region for tech talent, for example. And that's before you even take into account the benefits of the lower Canadian currency. So I think when you add it all up, we are still a lower cost jurisdiction. And we also have a very open approach to immigration. And to the point where our government, for example, when it's come to technology talent in particular, has created a talent visa that says if you've got a smart person from anywhere in the world, we're not only going to welcome them, we're going to get them a visa in 2 weeks so that those companies can take advantage of that talent, because we have open arms when it comes to immigration, and the smartest people from around the world coming to fuel the boom that's happening in our tech ecosystem.
Mayor Tory, we've got so much to ask you. I'm just going to get in there and talk about NAFTA. If Trump pulls out, if President Trump pulls out, Can you just outline the economic implications for your city?
Well, I'm not going to be a gloom and doomer because that sort of assumes that I want to speculate on the negative. I will just say this. I mean, that we have so many interlinking arrangements now put in place that it's almost been what it was intended to be, which is a seamless kind of economic union back and forth between the two countries so that we can do business back and forth. There are goods and services that pass back and forth across the border, I gather, more than a dozen times in the process of either being manufactured or being put together. And I will point out one other thing. One of the reasons I'm an optimist and look at the glass as being more than half full as opposed to half empty is this. 500,000 jobs here in the United States depend on the relationship with Canada and with through NAFTA and Mexico. And in the case of Canada in particular, 35 states have some part of Canada as their largest trading partner. So I believe in the end, when this all comes to the final chapter, you may see some changes, and undoubtedly you will. I mean, it's an agreement that was quite a few years old. You'll see some changes, but I think the notion that it's going to sort of be ripped up and thrown away, I just think is not going to happen. I think it would be, a bad mistake for the United States, but it's not up to me to make those judgments. We're, participating in the negotiations in good faith. Our country is, and I'm sure we'll come to an agreement.